Hi, welcome to the channel. My name is Bobby. I am your hobbyist on this adventure. This is the Hook Nook, where the goal is to help you learn to crochet. This channel is a collaboration with the Barclay Library in Warrensburg, Illinois. We meet there live and in person on the first and third Tuesdays of the month. If you're interested in joining us, feel free to stop by. I have linked library information in the description if you have any questions. Also, feel free to stop, rewind, and rewatch any and all parts of this video as many times as you need. The goal of this video is to teach you 2 basic stitches. I know, your first question is, what do I need? The bare minimum to start should be yarn, a light color to make it easier to see your stitches, a crochet hook. I recommend size H or I hook in the beginning, and scissors, preferably a nice sharp pair. Let's get started. In just about every pattern you look at, you'll see the word gauge. Gauge is just a measure of how big your stitches are. Gauge has 2 parts. It measures the width of your stitches and the height of your stitches. If you don't match the gauge of a project, some potential problems include your garment or accessory not fitting, running out of or having leftover yarn, or your finished project not looking like the sample or picture. I will do a different video on how to gauge your project. I only wanted to touch on it so you understand why it is listed on the patterns. First, let's take a look at the anatomy of your crochet hook. As you can see in this picture, the crochet hook has several parts. The tip or point of the hook, the throat, the shank, your thumb grip or rest, and the handle. There are 2 ways to hold your crochet hook. One is known as the pencil grip and the other as the knife grip. Let's start with the pencil grip. As the name suggests, you hold your crochet hook just like you would hold a pencil. Pinch the thumb rest of the hook, that's that flat part. Pinch it with your thumb and index finger of your dominant hand. Make sure the point of the crochet hook is towards you while you grip the hook. This way you can see your stitches as you work. Rest the hook on your middle finger like it's a pencil. Bring the rest of your fingers down so they're pointing towards your palm and let the hook sit on your middle finger. If you usually rest your pencil on your ring finger, try resting your hook on it instead. You'll probably find what you usually do with a pencil will be most comfortable for you. With the pencil grip method, your fingers, instead of your wrist, control the crocheting action. The other method of holding your hook is called the knife method, so named since you hold your crochet hook like you would hold a knife. This method is the method I prefer and will use throughout the videos I produce. Put the thumb of your dominant hand on the thumb rest. Make sure the hook is pointed towards you so you can see your stitches as you work. Curl your other fingers over the hook to grip the shaft. Once your thumb is in place, imagine you're holding a knife. Use your wrist to guide the action of the hook when you crochet. Unlike the pencil method, the knife method gives you a stronger hold on your hook, which is useful if you tend to crochet with tighter tension. No matter which method you use, if your hand starts to cramp up, loosen your grip on the crochet hook or try the other method. Now that we have some basics down, we can start a project. Today we will be using cotton yarn, a crochet hook, and scissors to make a washcloth. I do have some links below if you're interested in purchasing cotton yarn from Amazon. A slip knot is the first step in almost all crochet projects. There are multiple ways to create a slip knot. I'm going to focus on one. The first step begins by crossing the yarn from the ball of yarn, we'll call that your working yarn, over the tail end of the yarn, we'll call that the yarn tail, to form a circle. Here I will show you how to do so. we are going to cross the working yarn over the tail of our yarn. You can see here the working yarn is on top. Again, I'll show you how to make that loop. Cross the working yarn over the yarn tail, just like that. Insert the hook into the loop of yarn. As you can see here, I put my hook in so it will hook the working yarn. Pull the working yarn back through the loop. This will form a loop on your hook and a loose slip knot. Pull both the working yarn and the yarn tail to tighten the base of the slip knot around the hook shank. Now that you have completed your slip knot, it's important to hold your yarn so you can crochet smoothly. You will use your non-dominant hand to hold your yarn. Flatten your palm and straighten your fingers. Your fingers should be spread out slightly so that you can easily feed the yarn in between a couple of them. Thread the yarn between your pinky and ring finger. Some people prefer to thread your yarn between the ring finger and middle finger instead. You can also thread the yarn over your pinky finger, under your ring middle finger, and over your index finger, whichever option feels the most comfortable for you. Your working yarn needs to come from the back of your index finger and hook over your index finger. Spread your fingers for less tension on your yarn and close them for more tension on the yarn. The yarn should move smoothly through your fingers and not fall out. In your dominant hand, hold the hook with the loop on it up in front of you. It should be pointing toward your yarn hand. The loop on the hook should be sitting about 1 inch from the throat. That should place it right on the shank of your hook. You're now holding your project in the most effective way to start crocheting. With your working yarn over the pointer finger of your non-dominant hand, you will move the tip of the hook to the left of the yarn and push it behind the yarn. The knot should remain on the shank, and the rest of the yarn should now be in front of the hook. You then catch the yarn in the throat of the hook. To do this, pull the hook so that the curved end moves forward and catches the yarn. The yarn should now be nested in the hook throat. This is called a yarn over. Now you need to pull the yarn through the loop using the hook. That completes your first chain. You should have 1 chain stitch completed and have 1 loop on your hook. Repeat this action of yarning over and pulling through until you have as many chains as your pattern calls for. Your chains should be loose enough so you can insert your hook into each chain stitch. Fat worms describes what you want. Tight chains are hungry worms and are more difficult to work with when you move to the next row. You should count the chains as you go, but in case you lose count, it's important to be able to count how many stitches you have made. When looking at your chain, you should see a series of V shapes. Each V is a single chain stitch. Remember, do not count the loop that is around your hook. Now you have completed your foundation chain, and we will start single crocheting. To make the first single crochet row, you work it into your foundation chain stitches. Start by inserting your hook into the second chain stitch from your hook. Remember, we don't count the loop that is around the hook because that is not yet a stitch. With your working yarn over the pointer finger of your non-dominant hand, you will move the tip of the hook to the left of the yarn and push it behind the yarn. The knot should remain on the shank and the rest of the yarn should now be in front of the hook. You catch the yarn in the throat of the hook by pulling the hook so that the curved end moves forward and catches the yarn. The yarn should now be nested in the hook throat. This is referred to as a yarn over. Pull the yarn through the stitch using the hook. You should now have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull that yarn over through both loops on the hook. You've now completed your first single crochet. Your next single crochet is worked into the next chain stitch on your foundation chain. Insert your hook into the next chain stitch on the foundation row. Yarn over and pull through the chain stitch. You should now have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through both loops on the hook. Repeat the steps of inserting your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 to create a single crochet stitch in each of the remaining chain stitches. You have now completed 1 full row of single crochet. After you've worked a row of crochet or your foundation chain, you typically turn the piece over and work back across. Making a turning chain stitch helps to achieve the correct height for your next row of stitches. A turning chain can be either a single chain stitch or a group of chain stitches depending on the pattern. For this project, we are working 1 chain stitch in our turning chain. You can chain and then turn, or turn and then chain, whichever is more comfortable for you. Now we are going to work the first stitch of the new row on your pattern. To start this row, you're going to turn and do 1 chain stitch. Next, insert your hook into the second stitch of the previous row. As you can see here, I am skipping the first stitch and going into the second stitch from the hook. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through both loops on the hook. This will leave you 1 loop on your hook and you have completed 1 single crochet stitch. Insert your hook into the next stitch of the previous row, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both loops on the hook. You have now completed a second single crochet stitch. Repeat these steps by working 1 single crochet stitch in each of the stitches on the previous row. Make sure you pick up both posts of the stitch and not just the front or back post. Work until you get to the end of the row. You have now completed your second row of stitches. Make sure you don't miss this last stitch here at the end. As you can see, by completing the last stitch, you end up with a straight edge. You've now completed the second row of your project. In this project, you will just continue to repeat the pattern to create your washcloth. Starting your next row, make sure you turn your work, chain 1, insert your hook in the second stitch from the hook. Work 1 single crochet stitch in each stitch of the previous row. It's important to be able to count the rows you've created in case you lose track. As you can see here, I've created several single crochet rows on my project. I just need to know how far along I am. This first row here is your foundation chain. This row is your first row of single crochet. You count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this top one is number 9. Remember, the top row is an actual row and counts. One more time. This is your foundation chain. You can see the holes. This makes the first row, second row, third row, fourth row, fifth row, sixth row, seventh row, eighth row, and that top row is your ninth row of your project. So now you've completed all the rows in your project and you're finishing up. You're on the last stitches of your project. All you have to do is tie off and weave in the ends. So you finished your last stitch and now you're going to snip your yarn and pull your stitch through. That finishes off your piece and you've completed your piece. The only thing left is to weave the ends into your project. One thing we didn't go over is what happens when your hook falls out. Place your hook back into the loop. Make sure you have your working yarn on top. Pull the yarn to tighten the loop back onto your hook. I hope this helps you out. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Reach out to us at the library or here on YouTube and Facebook. Have a great day.